Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start off here with if you want to close your eyes and imagine this, you may do so. So imagine you are walking into a 10th grade classroom. It's now the end of the day and your students have just come from lunch. Not to mention it's Friday and you are approaching a 3-day weekend. What do? You have to capture their attention. For this case, for me and my student teaching experience, for 86 minutes. And if you don't do that, they're running around wild and you can't convey the message that you want to be able to convey to them. But I'll tell you, it's simple. You have to hook them and you have to reel them in. So about 2 weeks ago, I experienced one of the most disappointing situations a person could experience on May 5th, 2015. And I know what you're all thinking, oh my gosh, what could this possibly be? What could be so disappointing? And you're right. Stanley Cup playoffs, second round, the Wild against the Blackhawks, game 3. I mean, a shutout? Really? Anyways, I shared this disappointment with my students, who quickly responded with, "Oh, Miss B, I thought you were going to tell us something serious," which I followed with, "Well, this is serious. If we lose our game on Thursday, we're done for the season." And it was at that moment that I knew, unlike the Wild, I had scored my goal. I had caught their attention. I had hooked them so that they were going to be paying attention to what it is that I had to say next. If students are engaged in the content and the material, they're more likely to be paying attention to what it is you have to say. One of the studies that I looked at asked the question, what gets students engaged in class? Both teachers and students responded with saying that content and material that sparked curiosity, had some sort of positive relationship being fostered, as well as being able to express creativity. Those 3 things combined was stated as having students engaged in class. My point here is having the attention of your captive audience is necessary in being able to get your point across. Teachers may have the most important content to teach in the world, but if you don't have the attention of your students or the audience that you're teaching to, no one's going to listen and quite possibly no one's going to care. And unfortunately, that's the reality in some of our schools today. My guess is, had I stood up here and just started off with a bunch of stats and numbers that might not necessarily mean anything to you, but mean something to me, I would have lost your attention. This is where I want things to be different. I want students to be engaged in the topic, and I want students to be able to contribute without fear of being wrong or fear of failure. I can tell students what it is that I know, and I can demonstrate the skills that I possess, but ultimately, I want to know what the students know, and I want to know the skills that they possess. So making the material relevant to what's happening outside of school, or using an analogy to relate to, has been the best tactic thus far in my experience in capturing the attention of my students. Now, most likely you're still thinking about the Wild analogy that I made at the beginning of my speech, meaning I've caught your attention. It was relevant information happening outside of school, or in this case, outside of what it is we are doing, and I've sparked your curiosity in what it is I was going to say next. I had creativity, or captured creativity more or less along the lines of making the analogy to the Wild, and I've fostered a positive relationship in taking interest in maybe what your interests are. So it was the simple concept of hook, line, and sinker that did the trick. Without your attention, my speech would have been null, and just like students, they wouldn't have paid attention. So on that note, since the Wild are done, go Ducks.